Evening Bahamas, this is NB12 broadcasting from Cable 12 Studios on Robinson Road. Here's what's making news tonight. NB12 was on the ground in Mayaguana yesterday. Tonight we bring you updates and scenes from the tragedy. Social activist Rodney Munker speaks after spending the night in jail. Abandoned buildings, we take a look at the challenges they pose. Plus, tomorrow is moving day for Parkinson's awareness. Those stories and much more on the way. I'm Nakia DeVoe and NB12 starts right now. Thanks again for joining us here at NB12. A preliminary report has been completed into that tragic runway accident on Mayaguana Thursday. There are already a few scenarios officials are mulling over. According to Aviation Safety Inspector Delvin Major, the pilot didn't realize he had hit the first truck and may have been temporarily blinded. He said what happened when that plane touched down will be the focus of their investigation, and a final report into the accident will be complete by next week. Now, even though a day has passed, the shock of that accident still lingers. Our news team went to the island yesterday with the minister responsible for aviation and the member of parliament from Mayaguana to get an initial assessment of the impact that the tragedy had on the island. Our Paige McCartney tells us what they found in this report.
As the Mayaguana community starts the healing process, Member of Parliament from Mayaguana, V. Alfred Gray, and Aviation Minister Glenys Hannah Martin say they're putting the measures in place to prevent any incident like this one happening on Mayaguana in the future. The minister said while they know it will take a while for the family and friends of the three people who died in yesterday's accident to heal, they hope knowing that the government and the whole Bahamas sympathizes with them eases the hurt. The ministers toured the island to make contact with the family of the victims and stopped by the home of former Blue Hills MP Sidney Colley's father, Stanley Colley, who was the husband of 81-year-old Edith and father-in-law to Iname and Tim, who were incinerated when the emergency evacuation plane collided with their truck. He said he was able to go to the scene before the bodies were removed.
But when I went up the day, and I take a good look at it, all of my white face flying up, only old black stuff, and all the rest of them the same thing. And I look at her like that and say, smile. She couldn't smile because I never bones. I said, well, you didn't think this is you like that? And she ain't saying nothing. I said, well, let him have it, it gone. That was something to take deep in your heart.
Yeah. Are you scared? All right, you can be okay. Yep, you can be quite fine. Love you now, and you can be all right. Granddaddy can take good care of you, okay?
Hannah Martin said this accident has caused the government to realize the aggressive stance it needs to take to get emergency lights installed at the Mayaguana airport. She said the government has already ordered emergency lights and they should be in the country in the coming months.
We are going to move, in fact we've already began to mobilize to bring in lights, solar lights, which are in 17 other airports, but they have to be manufactured, I'm told, so there will be a lag of a month and a half roughly. Once they're in hand, we will dispatch a team to Mayaguana and to put lights, and I've given that assurance to that community.
Yesterday, Prime Minister Perry Christie indicated that the government had ensured that solar emergency lights were installed on 17 Family Island airports during his last term in office. However, he said the government was relying on the I Group, developers of a luxury boutique hotel and resort on the island, to install emergency lights since their heads of agreement with the government required them to rebuild the airport. Hannah Martin and Gray said it's obvious the government cannot rely on private entities.
It is clear that the Bahamas government has to protect the interests of people of Mayaguana, cannot be delegated to a third party, and that is the position we've taken now.
Mayaguana's airport condition is one which I consider to be almost inoperable because of repairs ongoing at the moment. And like Minister said, hadn't it been for the emergency which required a plane to go in to assist or evacuate the patient, this might never have been a subject for discussion.
The original heads of agreement signed between the government and the I Group in 2006 under the Christie administration changed in 2012, with the Ingram administration taking back more than 5,000 acres of land and giving the I Group controlling interest in the planned development. But according to Gray, this incident will cause the government to revisit that agreement.
And so, as Minister said, I am sure the government is not going to allow that situation to continue. I don't know what the legal position is with respect to the agreement, and so I don't speak to that. But I think the government, as ministers indicated, has an obligation on behalf of the people of Mayaguana to ensure that an airport functional is built for them. And if the government has to do it by its own resources, and under the agreement, the I Group pays the government back, then so be it. But I don't believe the government is going to take its hands off, and that's its proverbial hand, off Mayaguana's situation at all.
Yesterday, Gray said the Free National Movement should take responsibility for the tragedy. For MB12, I'm Paige McCartney.
Well, as we just mentioned, the government had been relying on the I Group to reconstruct the Mayaguana airport and install those emergency lights. The Prime Minister yesterday even admitted that he's not happy with his government's relationship with the I Group, and he and Gray are blaming the F&M government for changing the agreement with the developers. When we spoke with Colley yesterday as he arrived on New Providence from Mayaguana, he said as far as he knows, the I Group isn't doing any development or construction work on the island except for general maintenance performed by about 10 employees.
All I know is the I Group has a heads of agreement. It was one heads of agreement under the PLP. It was revised and went to Parliament, another heads of agreement under the F&M. The I Group has not done anything since the last heads of agreement. The plans for the I Group is lingering. That's the problem. The I Group has to decide now. It has what it wants. And it's going to have to decide now, you know, how fast it's going to move and to what extent it's going to utilize its 6,000 acres of land. But nothing is happening. Absolutely nothing is happening.
Colley said he would reserve any further comments in response to what the Prime Minister and Gray had to say for now. Well, following being charged with committing a grossly indecent act, community activist Rodney Munker was released on bail shortly after 4 o'clock this afternoon and was welcomed by cheering family members and supporters. Celeste Nixon has more in this report that you'll only see on NB12.
Shortly after his release, Munker described his experience at Her Majesty's prison.
Speaking to reporters outside the Magistrate Court complex, Munker said during his night in the medical bay, he felt safe and enjoyed the best sleep of his life.
I did exactly what they wanted. They say, take off my shirt, I took it off. They say, take off my pants, I took it off. When I got to my jockey, the officer was embarrassed. And I said, don't be embarrassed. He said, don't take off your jockey. I was given a green, brand new green blanket and some, what you call it, things a bit of it. I was taken to medical bay and I haven't had a good sleep like last night. The bed was the most comfortable bed that I've ever had.
Yesterday, 56-year-old Munker was charged with committing a grossly indecent act, a misdemeanor, because of photos he posted of Jamie Smith, who died of asphyxia while in police custody on February 8th, on his Facebook page. Appearing before Chief Magistrate Carolita Bethel again this afternoon, Munker was told his matter will now be fast-tracked to the Supreme Court. Munker has maintained that his arrest was unwarranted.
I've committed no criminal offense. Any citizen who comes before me, and I am convinced that they were unlawfully brutalized, I shall do the same thing. Thank you very much. I have broken no law.
While enjoying his freedom, Munker also praised officers at Her Majesty's prison.
But freedom is a wonderful thing. I'm happy to be free. I want the prison officers to know that I support them, and I will, on my Facebook, begin to point out those things. But I felt safe, I felt great.
Munker will return to court on May 10, 2013, before Deputy Chief Magistrate Carolita Bethel for service of a voluntary bill of indictment. Reporting for NB12, I'm Celeste Nixon.
In the months following the 2012 relaunch of Urban Renewal 2.0, hundreds of derelict and abandoned homes were demolished. But after facing heavy criticism when at least 2 people whose homes were destroyed as a result of the program said they were not warned about the impending demolition, the program has significantly slowed down. As Christina McNeil tells us in this next report, a group of residents is calling on government to resume the program and make their neighborhood a safer place.
Residents of a Bain and Grantstown community say they feel abandoned and neglected by a program designed to protect them and help weed out possible hubs for criminal activity in their neighborhood.
Hospital Lane resident Yvette Roxbury says the neighborhood may not be the safest, but the presence of an abandoned building just feet away from her doorstep is cause for concern, but one that seems to fall on deaf ears. For months now, the mother and grandmother says she and other mothers living in the government housing complex off Hospital Lane have contacted Urban Renewal offices about getting the building torn down.
I got a young granddaughter in this yard. My neighbors, we have at least 16 little girls in the yard, and we scared. We don't know what's going to happen. Predators is in the area. We don't know what's going on. So I'm asking, please, national security, Earl Renewal, Mother Pratt, all of y'all, do something for us.
I'm scared to walk out day or night because not only that, I'm afraid that people might be in this house. I've seen people, but I can't tell you who they are. You know, it's evidence that people do go in this house because when it first was abandoned, doors was on, doors have been taken out. You can see an AC unit that's being pulled out. You know, sometimes, like, I don't know, but with the other neighbors, I live right upstairs facing the house. And whether it's day or night, you can't see if somebody's looking at you, watching you.
My concern is my daughters stay always here by my sister, you know, and it really is troubling to know that, you know, all these things happening around in the area and stuff and things like that. And my main concern is that the MP for this constituency is the Minister of National Security. And you would think that if it's anything that he checked for would be the constituency with which the people of Baintown put it there to be our MP.
The structure the residents referred to sits on Hospital Lane surrounded by a fence. A rusty chain and padlock prevent entry through the gate, but the fence has been pulled down in one area, making access to the property possible. Back in September, State Minister of National Security Keith Bell said the Urban Renewal 2.0 program would focus more on home repairs than demolition. But the residents we spoke to say they're not only afraid for themselves, but for their families and the neighborhood children.
We went to the Earl Renewal project on it, and we didn't get no response. We tell them about it, nobody come back and say nothing about it. In the nighttime, BEC, we called BEC over and over for this, like going on to 3 months now. Nothing happened. Police being in our yard Saturday night, jump over the wall with guys, shooting guys, yuck up guys. We don't know what's going on with masks on. We need to find out what national security could do for us in this area.
I often wonder, what's the purpose for our urban renewal? I don't even know because they don't come here. You understand me? They don't do anything. I don't, you know, and our MP is the national security. Before he was in power, and this is to you, Mr. Nordich, before he was in power, I could see you every day almost. I was tired of seeing you. But now, I can't see you even if I come to your office. Where are you?
A source within Urban Renewal says officers are aware of concerns surrounding buildings that appear to be abandoned, like this one on Hospital Lane, but funding is an issue.
An Urban Renewal officer responsible for the area tells our news team that the office has received complaints about the property as recent as Thursday, but the program is hoping to secure additional funds in the upcoming budget cycle. Meanwhile, residents say they avoid walking by the home as best as possible until something can be done in the area.
All we're asking is that someone come, do something about this house here, do something with the lights so that at night you'll have visibility. You understand what I'm saying? So that's all they've asked. I don't think that's too much to ask. You know, I don't think, I mean, maybe they may think it's a lot to ask, but I personally don't think that's too much to ask.
Messages left for co-chair of the Urban Renewal Commission, Cynthia Pratt, were not returned up to airtime. Reporting for NB12, I'm Christina McNeil.
Still to come on NB12, Eleuthera to host its first Business Outlook.